All right, if you're just coming in on this first screen, you'll see something. Hi, Laura. Great to have you today.
Glad to be here.
So on this first screen, you'll notice there's a Pear Deck slide. If you've never used Pear Deck before, just open a new tab, type in joinpd.com, and then go ahead and type in the code and complete the activity that's listed there. Hi, April. Come on in. We're glad to have you. On the screen, you'll notice it says joinpd.com. Go ahead and open a new tab. Go to joinpd.com, type in the code, and then complete the activity. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm Martine Brown, a member of the GISD Digital Learning team, and we're excited to start our webinar series. Today, we're going to be focusing on strengthening student learning community. So how can you improve the journey that your students are taking right now as we are participating in at-home learning? We're going to look at some strategies on how to make this as positive of an experience as possible. So our webinar goals are pretty simple. We're going to explore strategies to support positive learning environments. We're going to look at some extensions that have been added to your Google Meet to give structure as far as when you're interacting with students live. And then we're also going to look at techniques to support instructional challenges that you may have. My big message here is just creating that positive tone. So we want to put positive, if we want positive in, then we have to push positive out. And I think that starts from the moment or even a couple moments before your time online with students begins. So one strategy I have for you is to do a pre-meeting slide. So about 5 to 10 minutes before your time with your students begins, you're going to put up a slide. So some of you that came in just a few minutes before 3, if you noticed, there was a slide already up, there were instructions that were there, and there was music playing in the background. All of those, that complete setup is all about setting a very specific tone that we want to have for our time, our shared time together. And that's what the intention of a pre-meeting slide. So first I want to show you how to present your screen separate from your other windows. So I'm going to show you that first, and then I'm going to give you a couple of examples of pre-meeting slides that you can use. So the first thing you're going to do, anytime you want to present just the slide, like in a separate window, you'll have all of your browser tabs over here, and the one that you want to present, you want to drag that one over. Okay, so you'll do that first. Whichever slide is the one you want to present on, you'll drag it over to the right. From there, at the bottom of your page, there'll be a Present Now button, and you don't have to do this now, but I just wanted to walk you through it. You click on Present Now, and then this window will pop up. And instead of choosing your entire screen, you're going to select just a window, a very specific window. So you'll click on that. And then what you will notice is this white box is going to show up, and it has my original browser with all of my tabs, and then the browser that I pulled out separate by itself, that's the one I want to use. So I would select this specific browser, and then I would select Share. And then from there, if I click on People, it shows my live video stream, and then it also shows the screen that I'm presenting. So if you ever were unsure how to only present just a specific window, those are steps on how to do that. And that's exactly what you would want to do if you're going to create some pre-meeting slides to really set the tone, a positive tone for your students. So I've got a couple of examples for you. One thing that you can put on your pre-meeting slides is shared norms or policies or guidelines that you may have set up for you may have worked with your students to develop together. Now on this slide, I kept it real simple. I just put one norm, which is to mute your mic before the meeting begins. And then I also thought it was important to provide the date and the day. Some of our kids are they're staying up very late. The days are starting to run together for them. And so I thought it was a good idea to establish, get them reset on, what day is it, what day of the week, that kind of thing. And then I have my one norm. But again, you could put several norms, maybe even 3 top norms that you feel are most beneficial for working with your students. And that way, when they come into the meet, the expectations are there and they're clear. Here's another example. It's just a different one. The last one I showed you, I used Genially. This one was made by our Ready coach at Saxy, and she kept it real simple. She just used a Google slide. I think the letters are moving because she created a GIF. But again, just putting the text up there, making it real visual and plain that these are what the expectations are. That's a good way to ensure that students come into the space understanding what's important to you and your time together. Another way to address pre-meeting slides is to use calm colors or even landscapes just to help students with their focus and clarity as they get ready for the meeting. So I want to show you an example of that. I used Genially to make this, and it's really just a slide. I chose waterfalls, so I just thought a waterfall or not a waterfall, but a creek would be a really good calming feature to have just a few minutes before the meeting began. And then I was also able to pull some examples from one of our Ready coaches. Her name is Ashley. And so these are some that she did in Canva. So just establishing tone. It's no different than if we were actually at school. Some of you might play a little music before your kids enter. You might greet them at the door. If you noticed, the first 10 people that came a few minutes before 3, I made sure to acknowledge you by name, give you some opening instructions. All of that's meant to mimic that time that you would use right before the bell at school. Another strategy is that you can use as a part of your pre-meeting slide is to do a wellness check. Our students are in all levels of experiences and circumstances, and it's perfectly okay to just check in on them privately. So those of you that came in right when we started, if you noticed, there was a slide. We did it in Pear Deck, and I provided you some templates of what this could look like using Pear Deck. You can do the same thing. Many of our families, there's going to be a loss of income. Families have had to pull together. Some kids are watching other kids. So that creates a lot of stress in the home environment. And so I thought that this list of templates, this is one of my favorites, would be a good way to just see what, are we going to have a lot of behavior problems today? Because we've got 4 kids, maybe their bucket is empty. Maybe they need, and maybe they can share why. Like, why are they not feeling upbeat and ready to go the way they normally would? Really finding out the answer to those questions could really help to prevent or avoid negative behaviors while working online with you in the classroom. So the second thing that I want to talk to you about is Google Meet and the extensions that are associated with Google Meet. There were two. But I do want to take a minute to just talk about what extensions are. So extensions are just small little software programs that enhance the Chrome browser experience. So when we think about that very top bar, see if I can show it to you. At the very top of your screen, you probably have a little square that looks like this. A square that looks like this. And then you might have a little, either a hand clap, it's on the top right. Those are called extensions. And those extensions are just meant to help make the browser more powerful. So they've already been pushed. Students have them and teachers have them. They've already been pushed on all devices. At this point, they should be on all district Chrome browsers. And so I want to talk to you about a couple of strategies that you can use with these tools. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so I can show you my whole screen. There we go. And then I'm going to present my whole screen so that you can get a good idea of what your options are here. So if you notice, and you're going to have the same thing at the very top, here's my grid extension and here's my node extension. Just keep in mind there's nothing for you to do, but that I just wanted to show you that's where they're located. I do want to talk about the grid extension first. We've gotten a lot of help questions in regards to grid. So I want to make sure that I spend just a little time talking about it. So when I turn this grid mode off, it puts me back in the traditional view of a Google Meet. So I can't see all of my participants at the same time. If I wanted to call people one by one, I could do it, but I would have to probably do it from the people list. And so one of the best benefits of using grid mode is that it allows me to see everyone at one time. And so if I was saying, tell me something great that happened to you today, I could literally go, April, tell me what you got. Chelsea, what do you have? Laura, what do you have? I can go straight from left to right along this grid. So it really organizes that process for you. Another element that I like is the highlight speakers. This really, if you're having a student that maybe hasn't muted their mic or is talking often, you'll almost see it quicker than you'll hear it. And that'll really help you to address those issues one-on-one with the student. And then I like to include myself so that I can see myself speaking in the grid and also seeing how what I say impacts the rest of the room. So I really like those features as far as keeping your class more organized and being able to visually work with your students a little bit more efficiently. Now, there is one time that I actually suggest that you not use the grid view. The only time I suggest, and you can always say, hey kids, I'm going to share my screen. And because I'm going to share my screen, I want you to turn grid view off. So when you turn grid view off or ask your students to turn the grid view off, it just does a better job of making the screen that's being shared a little bit larger. And I personally like that. So those are basically some elements that you can use with the grid extension to help your students, to help you be a little bit more organized and help you just get a better idea visually, where are they, what's their mood, with just one glance. And I left these tips for you in the presentation, but I won't go over them again. The second extension that I want us to take a look at is the node extension. So with the node extension, and a lot of you may have been wondering what that extension is. It's on the top left and you have two parts. So you have this thumbs up with these emojis, and then you have the raise your hand. Okay, so those are the two. Now, instructionally, I do think that we got a great opportunity to really mimic some of the things that we would do in class on a smaller level virtually. And so one of the things I really like with this NOD extension is being able to check for understanding and do some formative assessments. And so you can make a slide like the one that's on the right that essentially says, hey guys, you can say, hey guys, I want to just do a check for understanding. I want to see where you are. And so I need you to do a wow if you've mastered the skill, a thumbs up if you just understand, or a if you need more help. So right now we're going to do it. Tell me where you are by using the Nod app on the top left-hand corner. Go ahead and do that for me. So if you notice, that's a really good way for you to get a good capture on where are your students. It's in the top left. I'm going to bring my cursor. There should be a thumbs up and there should be a little person with their hand raised. And we're focusing on the emojis right now. Great question. So I highly suggest creating a slide like this. If you notice, I removed some emojis because I might be teaching something and I don't want kids to do a laugh out loud. I don't want kids to do an applause. I really want to focus on, do you understand what I just taught? Or are there some people who are going to need more help? So that was my reasoning. I would actually shorten my lessons and add more checks for understanding throughout using the Nod extension. Also, I know that some teachers are having challenges with kids. They have ideas that they want to share and they all want to share them at the same time. So the raise your hand feature is also another good option for you. So if you notice on the right, I made another slide and this slide just says it's Q&A time. And so as you teach your lesson, block off moments to do a little Q&A and have the students use the extension to ask their questions. That should reduce the number of kids just randomly speaking at one time so that you can really organize the dialogue. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can focus back on just sharing my screen. So I'm going to share again, but this time I'm just going to share my window, just my one window. And again, I left a list of the instructional strategies for you, but again, we've already talked about them, so I won't, go over them again. And then the last thing I really want to talk about is just challenges. We're going to have student challenges along the way. That hasn't changed whether we're face-to-face or virtually. And so how do we differentiate for student engagement? How do we still keep them involved even if they're not meeting all of our expectations the way we want them to? I would really take some time to evaluate student participation in a live format. If you have a student it's not working for, definitely go ahead and take that time to do a parent conference and work with the student, the parent, and get your admin involved. That is exactly what they're here for, to help us encourage kids to be the best model digital citizens that they can. So take that time to really schedule and meet up collaboratively. And listen, if it's not working for a student, use other routes to connect. So Flipgrid is a great option because then you and the student can leave video messages from one another. You're still connected, but it takes them from that live environment where they have an audience and they may be playing into the audience too much. Another option would be to use the private comments in Google Classroom. Those are two routes that would be very beneficial to continue to connect to your kids without taking away from having positive learning positive learning environments online. And then finally, times are tough for everyone at this time for a lot of different reasons, whether it be stress of not being unsure of the unknown. And we have to continue to remain hopeful and remain positive. So keep it fun. A couple of different ways we can do that. GISD is actually doing an always connected theme days that they've scheduled. And so and we'll give you the presentation at the very end, but on their website, they have different theme days. Use this as an opportunity to really connect with your students and maybe participate in some of those theme days. Even if you don't share it out on Twitter, as a class, as a small group, you guys could do some of these things to just remember to remain connected with each other and that we will get through this together. I think one of the DL shared this with me. I thought this was a really cool way. This is Jackie Reeves, and she was doing a recorded short story for her students. So she decided to dress up like the character. Now, clearly, she's got some costume design skills or some makeup design skills that are out of this world, right? And that's great. What I'm saying to you is, I don't necessarily think you have to be like Jackie, but I do want you to pull on some of those skills. Maybe you've got an old set of skills that you really haven't used in a while. Maybe you were in theater. Maybe you played an instrument. Pull in on some of those skills that you wouldn't typically bring to school if it's going to help improve engagement with your kids. You're going to have to keep changing it up. If it stays the same all the time, you have disengaged students. Your students are not going to always do what you need them to do in the class setting. Another option would be to also connect globally. This is Sherry North. She's one of our high school teachers. Her students are preparing to take the AP Human Geography test. And so she used her PLN to connect with teachers in Denver and in Charlotte. And all 3 classrooms have been practicing study guide questions collaboratively using GimKit. This is an excellent opportunity to really bolster connecting with other classrooms and playing games, academic games with other classrooms. It's really, nationally, really worldwide, many schools are shut down or using these online formats. It'd be an awesome way to keep that positive engagement because we really are doing this together. It's not isolated to just one class. You can play a virtual academic bingo. Maybe it's tied to different memories you have in your class. Maybe it's tied to the content. Play virtual bingo with your students. That's another way to keep it light. And then finally, collaborate with your campus and maybe plan a masked singer using Flipgrid. And I have 2 examples. I'm going to show you the first one. Lyles Middle School will be doing, theirs will start Friday. And essentially, I think the way that they're setting it up is the students will get this grid in their Google Classrooms, and then they will watch the performance, and then they have to guess who the person is that's singing. Oh, I want to dance with somebody. And so the teachers with the least amount of votes, they will be revealed, and it goes round for round until the final mass singer is revealed. So I thought this was a really good way to create community, to keep it light and keep it fun. Here's another one. This is an elementary school in Texas. I think it's Brownsville, Texas. And they've done something similar. They even have done their flip grids. Let me show you their flip grid. So this is their flip grid. They've got all these funny names. And so again, the students are going to, in this one, the students are going to use a Google form. And they're going to vote for their favorites. So that's just some ways to keep it light and keep it fun as we move forward. Because again, kids are accustomed to the days being just structured a little bit differently than they are now. And we've got to, keep them on the positive front.